first of many commendation ceremonies that we do for members of the department and members of the community that have made a difference in the lives of people here in the city of Waterloo. For the police officers, it's very difficult to go home and talk to your family members about what you do every day. So sometimes your family members don't know the risk you take, the great things you do, and the effect you have on people's lives. And this is just our opportunity to thank you all for everything you've done over the course of the last year, and to reinforce that the Waterloo Police Department has the community's back here in the city of Waterloo. We've tried to demonstrate that over the last few months. We've got dedicated folks throughout this department that really love this community and try their very best to do their best for this community. And this is our way of sharing some of those great stories with members of our community and the family members that support the officers that go out of their houses every day and don't know whether they're going to return. So especially during a time like this, where we see events across the country happening that don't necessarily shed the best light on us, it's important for you to hear stories that are absolutely positive and absolutely have benefited lives in here in Waterloo and elsewhere. So let's get the ceremony started. Mayor Hart, we'd ask that you come up. We would like you to say a few words if you'd like. We know you won't pass this opportunity up to say a few words, sir.
As everyone knows, I'm a man of very few words. But what I want to say really quickly, there's a difference between a moment and a movement, right? We know that a moment happens and it's a capture in time and you have it right then and you look at that situation. But when you have a movement, you have people that are working together, moving in a certain direction, trying to get to the same place together. And we've had some challenging times. We've had some incredible times. We've had people that have brought forth accountability. We brought forth accountability. But what I am so glad to see is the shift and the change. And for us to become a community that is a model on learning how to work together, to treat one another, to have a movement that lasts for longer than that moment. So, of course, Chief Fitzgerald, the police department, community leaders, community activists, I want to thank you so much for all that you have done for our community. And thank you so much for taking proactive steps to help us to become an even greater community. So, Chief, without further ado, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
We have about 50 awards to get through, and my goal is to do that in an hour, so we have a fairly quick program to run, and I did not time in for the chief or elected officials to speak. So we're going to have to kind of clip along, but we should be okay. What we're going to do is we'll call off names, and people will come up this way. Captain Mayles will pass certificates to the chief. The chief will hand you the certificate. We'll take a picture, and we'll move on. We're going to do some people in groups, but the pictures can still be individual. And once we get the pictures taken, our CSI here will get them to me and I'll mail them to the recipients of the award. Email them to the recipients of the awards. You're welcome to come forward and take cell phone pictures if you want. Just be respectful of everybody trying to get in and out and up through here. So we're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if everybody could please rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If you want to remain standing, Pastor Pugh is going to give us an invocation. I lost him, but he's here somewhere. Here he comes.
Thank you all for being here with us. Let's vow for a moment of prayer. Father, we thank you. We honor you. We recognize and acknowledge that what brings us together is stronger than what would tear us apart. In this sea of life, you put us all in the same boat. And we're learning how to row together in the same direction. I ask that you would strengthen our police and elected officials in the role of the community. There is no two separate communities. There's just one community, learning how to live together. It's not a lesson we've learned well always, but I pray, Father, you would help us to get it right. Thank you for the sacrifice and service of those in blue and of those of us in everyday clothes. At the end of the day, we all have families we desire to get home to, and we all desire to see a more prosperous Waterloo. To that end, I would ask you, in the name of your Son Jesus, bless us, lead us, and guide us. In your name, amen. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Q. In addition, we are live streaming this event on our Police Department Facebook page, so if you wanted to message family or friends at home that couldn't make it, they can certainly log into the Waterloo Police Facebook page and watch the live stream. We're going to start off with the awards. The first two commendations are for Larry Lehman and Michael Jensen. Michael's unable to be here tonight, but his wife Jen will accept for him if they could both come forward. For those of you who don't know, Michael Jensen went missing on July 6th and was located 4 days later. Michael survived in a drainage ditch for nearly 4 days and sustained himself with his sheer power and will to live. He was located by Larry Lehman, a construction worker who was working in the area, and just out of God's grace, looked over and saw him in the ditch and called police and Waterloo Fire, and we all responded out there, and Michael was recovered and is doing well to this day. So that's a miracle story. It was July, 4 days, the heat, it was unbearable hot. Everybody who searched can speak to that. So we're appreciative of all their efforts, and truly it saved a life. So I think they deserve one of those. Next is Officer Rhonda Webber, Officer Jordan Nealers, and Officer Matt Works. As police officers, we often get to do some things that other people don't get to do. We get to do some things that other people don't want to do. In the case of Officer Nealers and Officer Works, they both performed life-saving maneuvers. Officer Works, after a traffic accident he witnessed, performed CPR on the driver of the motorcycle. And Officer Jordan Nealers, most recently at the shooting on 4th Street, performed CPR on a shooting victim. Officer Rhonda Webber is a little different story. She spent a great deal of 2020 working with an autistic young man in the community to try to find suitable housing and to get him the help that the family needed. She was successful, and it was a bit of a battle, and she continues to work with that to this day. We felt it was important to honor her recognition and her ability to work with people in our community as well. Marlena Perez Gomez. I didn't see if she. Yeah, so, no, she may not be here. There she comes. And Tucker Crawford. I'll start with Tucker. This isn't Tucker's first award. He got one from the fire department for the same situation. Tucker recognized his grandmother was having an emergency medical condition and was alert enough to call his father, who alerted 911 and got his grandmother the insulin she needed. So at his young age, Tucker was quick to think and quick to react. Ms. Gomez's case, we had an officer involved in a vehicle pursuit. Weapons were thrown from the vehicle, and they ended up in a foot pursuit with this subject, and as he was running, she basically knocked him over so the officers could capture him. The officers were extremely grateful because it was hot and they were tired, so they appreciate her help.
And we're hiring, I told you.
Officer Keaton Northrop and Matt Woodward. Officer Ehlers, who was up here earlier, and these two young men are members of our VCAT unit, along with Sergeant Michael Gersh, who will get an award later. For an Officer Northrop's case, he located a suspect in a homicide that was involved in a shooting. The suspect fled on foot while carrying a firearm. He pursued and took the suspect into custody with minimal use of force. It was a very dangerous and high-risk situation that he handled with true professionalism. Officer Matt Woodward, his patrol skills led him to locate a suspicious vehicle, drew his eye to it. He did further investigation. Come to find out there were 3 or 4 firearms in the vehicle, 1 high-powered rifle, and the gentleman was planning on doing a robbery downtown that he interrupted. due to his extreme professionalism and honestly his skill set, he located and prevented what could have been a very, very serious crime. Okay, this is a fairly large group. One is Mayor Quentin Hart, LaTanya Graves from the NAACP, Vicki Brown, Lori Dale, I didn't see Lori's here. Pastor Q, Reverend Thomas Flint, Pastor Mary Robinson, Joy Livingston. I don't think she was able to make it tonight. She was doing some stuff with you and I. And Jamie Salas. Beginning May 29, 2020, there were serious protests in Waterloo over incidents that have occurred throughout the country. Many of these people, all these people, were instrumental in being community leaders to ensure the protest voices were heard and demonstrations were done safely and to represent Waterloo proudly. We're extremely proud of our partnership with our community leaders and their ability to work with the police department throughout these protests.
We called these people at the last minute, the literal last minute, and asked them to assist us in deconflicting any potential problems that we could have had due to the George Floyd shooting. They were willing to step up and become members of, not only, they're already prominent members of the community, but walk with us hand in hand and side by side to help us avoid the kind of problems that other cities have had. Something that our city should be very proud of. Our police officers handled themselves very well, but also our citizens that stepped up to take part in this did so as well. So you should be very proud that citizens like these could step up and help avert some of the problems that other cities have endured and are enduring to this day. So thank you all. And I ask
Next is continuing on that theme, Captain Matt McGue, Lieutenant Kai Richter, and Lieutenant Steve Bose. They were part and instrumental, the chief alluded to the work of the officers that day. Every officer in this department did an excellent job throughout that week and the weeks to follow. Captain McGue, Lieutenant Steve Bose, and Lieutenant Kai Richter sort of led our efforts and our planning and worked with members of the community to ensure that we did things properly and reduce any potential incidents in town. So we really appreciate their efforts. They put in a lot of hours those few days, as did every officer. I did not see Sheriff Thompson. Raquia Campbell, Ricky, William Muhammad, Rashandis Robinson, Kevin McCullough, Carlos Anderson, Theron Montgomery, Astor Williams. That's it for that group. This is the same as the first group. These are another group of community leaders that was called at the last minute in May and asked to come down and meet with the chief, meet with the department, and talk about things we could do to help make sure voices were heard and that things were done safely and things went out without anybody getting injured or seriously hurt. So we really appreciate their efforts, their desire to drop everything and just come out and help, because they did that. So we really appreciate their work. Thank you. Next, we have our group from Tyson's Fresh Meats. Tom Hart, Cody Brusker, Wynn Timmerman, Ryan O'Rourke, Adam Pennell, and Bruce Baker. Many of you are aware that throughout the summer we developed a series of Meet the Chief picnics. COVID hampered our attendance a little bit, but they turned out fairly well. Many of the officers attended. Tyson's Fresh Meats donated the food, the meat, the buns, the sides. Not only did they donate all that, they donated their skill to cook it. And if you didn't come out, you really missed out, because every meal they made was fantastic. Leftovers normally went to the department and lasted about 15 minutes. So we greatly appreciate their efforts. It was hot, it was not great weather, but they always showed up with a smile and served everybody and worked with us great. So it really allowed us to do something that we haven't been able to do in a long time, and we appreciate it. Kendall Crawford. I should have brought him up with the Tyson's group, to be honest with you. Kendall was instrumental in our picnics. He advertised them. He was on the radio. He asked questions. He did show-ups. He really stood out for us over the summer and allowed us to get our message out. Kendall's a great guy. We really got to know him over the course of the summer and had a lot of fun. So we want to thank him for his involvement in our picnics as well.
Still? I knew you'd want to hold my hand. Why am I smiling with a mask on? That's the big question.
You guys look better with that. Sergeant Mike Gersh. I think Tom Schuster was unable to make it. He's sick tonight. Sergeant Devine was unable to make it. Kyle Ullum. And Brad Walter. Sorry, Dave, I'm getting a little long. Nope, you're all right. Sergeant Michael Gersh, as I mentioned earlier, runs our VCAT unit. Everybody in his unit's been up here getting some sort of award. Mike does a great job of keeping those guys on task and moving around and doing a lot of things next. Doing a lot of things for us. He's a tactical unit member. He's a firearms instructor. We've really come to rely on him throughout the year, and he really deserves recognition. So, Kyle Ullum. We had a homicide not that long ago. Kyle is what they refer to as a bloodhound. He always seems to find evidence. And he found a crucial piece of evidence that led to a successful resolution to that case. And I got Brad Walter. Brad is our traffic investigator, our Faro scanner runner, our drug recognition expert, and our OWI guy. And if you haven't paid attention, we had an excessive number of serious car accidents this year. And I think we estimated Brad was called in over 20 times to work serious car accidents. And as many of you are aware, they don't occur at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. We're working Brad up, bringing him in, and putting him to work. So we really appreciate his efforts and what he's done throughout his career with this department and the dedication he's served. Next, got Nick Webber and Troy Wilson. I didn't see if Troy walked in or not. So Nick's all by himself. Nick has become third shift's expert on OWIs and traffic enforcement. We rely on him heavily for a lot of the accidents that Brad works. Nick has been very valuable to our agency, and we really appreciate his efforts. Working third shift is tough, court is tough, and it really takes its toll on the guys. So we appreciate him and his family's sacrifice to the organization. That's all we got. The chief will give a few closing remarks here.
Just a few, I promise. The stories, the brief stories you heard tonight are just a microcosm of what these officers and what some of our citizens do for us every day. We care about this community. We have your back. Our citizens out here care about this police department and have this police department's back. And we want to pledge to you just one thing, and that's that we're going to work as hard as we can every day to ensure that the people out there doing violent crimes, causing you headaches, and being plagues within the neighborhood are the people that we address. Citizens that are, lined up with us, citizens that don't necessarily agree with us all the time, that's okay. And we respect that. Everybody has a right to disagree. But what you can expect out of us is good service. What you can expect is the kind of attitude and dedication that these men and women in blue here have demonstrated just tonight in the brief snippets of information about the great things that officers do here have given you a glimpse into. So if you can, just for everyone here, those who didn't get awards, if you would just give the folks, sworn and civilian, one last round of applause before we close this out. I'd really appreciate it. So thank you all. This job is one where we only have a few things that are guaranteed. You can take a life, save a life, and you can affect lives in so many different ways. And when officers are out there doing those things in a positive manner, engaging with citizens, working with you, aligning ourselves with people in the community to keep the level of angst in the community down, we can only just pray that that kind of relationship keeps going and grows. The way it grows is having events like this, inviting you all to these events, and the way it grows also is for people going to events within the city that you may typically not go to. So we've tasked officers with being parts of the neighborhoods and parts of the community and going to community meetings. And if you're having a community function, let us know. Don't exclude us. We're not there to just be an occupying force within the community, but we'll be there to take part in the community function to show our dedication, our rededication, I should say, to what goes on the ground level in every area of this city. So please, don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. We have officers ready and that are at your service every day. So I said this now, and I'm gonna hold you all to the fact that I got some positive responses about letting us know when things are going on. And likewise, when we have events, I would hope that some of the same people we've called upon to help organize and unite this community attend those functions as well. It means so much to the men and women that work in this department, and it means so much to the community for people in the community to see folks that work in our department doing so much to serve them. So thank you all for coming. Thank you to family members that let your ladies and gentlemen come out every day to work for the city and to do their very best. And perhaps now that you've got a glimpse into some of the great things that your family members do, that when they come home, they'll share some of it with you. It's easy for me, my wife's a cop, but for those who aren't, many times we try to shield our families from what we see every day, what we hear, and it's important we share some of these stories and some of this information so that everybody can get a glimpse to the heroism and the really heartfelt work that you do. So thank you again, and we tried to keep this to an hour, and we promised that we'd do it. One more round of applause, and we'll cut out. If anyone wants to take pictures that's got an award, the command staff will be up here to take photos with you, and we'll take them as long as you like. For those of the family members that want to come up and take pictures, you're more than free to come up anywhere up here and take pictures of your loved one. So enjoy. Thank you for attending tonight, and God bless you all.